Good evening. I'd like to call this Folcroft Borough Council meeting for January 19th, 2021 to order. I'm going to take over in the mayor's absence for the flag salute and invocation. So if we could all put your hands over your chest for the salute to the flag. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. All right, I'd like to take a moment of silence for those lost to the COVID pandemic, as well as for our troops stationed in the Capitol at the moment, one of whom is a Folcroft resident. Ms. Sarah Ropsky is serving in the Capitol this evening and through the inauguration proceedings for the protection of our Capitol. Thank you, folks, and I apologize for the background noise. Do forgive me. I'd like to turn it over to Borough Manager Heyman for the roll call.
Council President Papaleo.
Present.
Councilman Kyle Willis.
Present.
Councilwoman Lee Daly.
Present.
Councilman Nick Waters. Nick, I think I see you on there.
Here.
Oh, there we go. Councilwoman Melinda Isaac.
Present.
Councilman Jason McGuigan. Councilman Jason McGuigan. Is he on here?
Not present.
Who's 61072? Okay, that's fine.
That's the chief.
Councilman Robert Ruskowski, he let me know that he would not be in attendance. And Mayor Fry is not present. Alex.
Here.
And I am present.
All right, very good. Andrew, were the bill lists included for the month in this?
Yep, should be in the packet that I gave you. And
Yep. Okay. All right, I just wanted to make sure before I got into my thing, but I'm going to turn it over to you for audience participation.
we have one public comment. And there you go. So I have a public comment from Sandra Adams. She wanted me to read into the record verbatim. So she says, hi, Andrew. Per our conversation, here's a follow-up email with suggestions I have regarding code violations, specifically for grass above 6 inches. Improvements for Borough Council to consider. Background for Folcroft Council, if you want to share it with them. On late Monday, 10/19/20, after 6:30 p.m., my mail on Bennington comes after 6 p.m. I received a code violation for grass over 6 inches long. It was in an envelope listing the fine and stating that I had 10 days to pay the envelope citation. The envelope citation was dated 10/15/20. On 10/20, the next day after I received the violation notice, I called the borough office and left a message on the code enforcer's voicemail, as the secretary could not answer my question as to why I had received the violation. At that date, my front and large backyard were not even more than 1 inch long. My little plot of grass outside my back door was possibly 1 to 5 inches. That plot grows faster. And how to dispute it. The secretary asked me to leave a message for the code enforcer on voicemail, which I did. I called back Wednesday, 10/21, and left messages on the secretary's and code enforcer's phone. That day, I also went to the borough office and dropped off the envelope with my check, as the citation only gave me 10 days to pay, and I didn't want any further citations, just to show that in all caps. On 10/23, I spoke with the borough secretary again, asking who I talked to dispute the citation and see if they received my check. Secretary recommended that I send an email to see if I could dispute this violation. I did. You investigated and found no record of the violation and also discovered that the check was nowhere to be found in the borough office. I assumed it was lost for good. You also stated this violation was a mistake and I did not owe the $25. We left it at that. I spoke to my bank, and since the check was only for $25 and it cost $35 to cancel the check, I just let it go, which I did, assuming it was lost. On Monday, 1/11/21, I saw late in the day on my online bank statement that the check was pending. I called the bank this past Tuesday and they said that it had been cleared. I called you and emailed you, and you had me call my bank for further information, and they informed me that the check was deposited in the Folcroft Borough account. Per your investigation and our conversation, it was deposited by the borough office. It should never have been deposited. You agreed that the borough office will reimburse me with $25. We also discussed the improvements you have made to verify you have records that others who need to access in the borough cannot access. I am so happy to hear of the great improvements made to keep this from happening again. We discussed two concerns that you suggested I email you to the Borough Council look at. First concern, instead of citing right away, we can give first-time violators a warning, then a citation the second time, or within a certain amount of time if the warning isn't corrected. Second concern, it is unreasonable to request a citation fine be paid within 10 days. This does not give the resident proper time to accrue the money for the fine. It doesn't give time for the resident to dispute the citation. I urge you to look at allowing more time, possibly 30 days, for violations to be paid. Could you present whatever background necessary to council and my two concerns so that they can have look at how to improve citations and make them reasonable for residents? I fully understand we have repeat offenders, but most of our residents do our best to abide by the codes. Also, council needs to ensure that residents are more aware of all codes. Thank you for your help and time. Sandy Adams, 736 Bennington Road. Just to give you some extra background, so we have no idea where the check went. I wish I could tell you. I never saw it, nor did I receive it. It was not anywhere that it should have been in the borough offices. So unrelated to her concerns, well, actually starting out, the chief and I met with her that day in October out back behind her home because there was an issue with parking. While I was back there, she noted some neighboring households that had high grass, and one of them reported. I reported that to the code enforcer at the time, Mike Viceni. Mike, I gave him the address and said that they were in the vicinity of her address, and instead a fine was written for her address, which implies, I mean, her address was good, and I can confirm it because I was personally there. So when I heard about this, I immediately dropped it. That was unacceptable.
Which means you never even went out to inspect the complaint.
Well, whatever happened, they were not written, fines were not written for the addresses that were a problem, but they were written for her address. And I don't know.
And if I'm not mistaken, our practice has usually been to take pictures of the violation.
Yes, we retain a photograph. So unrelated to her complaint, but long before the check was cashed, when we thought it had gone missing, we revamped how we provided how we record this information previously. These records were kept as copies, disorganized on a computer that we did not generally regularly use. It wasn't clear when they were from. Dig up an address, you had to basically get lucky because they were not in any order. So I created a filing system in the Borough Hall, again, several months ago, actually, in which a copy of the photograph and a copy of the ticket are retained in a file with the address that the resident reported. If they pay it online, it's a printout of the transaction from Jackrabbit, and that's retained with it as well. If there's any other information, any other notes or something like that, they can be kept in the same folder. That way we can and preserve them for the year. That way we can identify regular offenders, repeat offenders, and more importantly, when a resident calls, I can actually go back into that filing system without knowing anything about the situation and find all the details I need to know, including a photograph of the issue. But we also retain a digital copy, which we have on our shared file in the office now, which we again did not exist previously, so that I can go and look and see which fines are paid. It's color coded, green and red. After a certain number of days, I recommend to council, we haven't even hit that point yet, that we start sending out fines and notices, like with our police department, letting residents know that their fines are past due. And Alex, if it's okay, including a $10 administrative fee for each fine, as we've got to use money from our, from the whatchamacallit, the fund for, stamps and things like that, and the amount of time that goes into it. It's not that it's a lot of time. Most won't get paid, but I think it's an appropriate amount.
Yeah, as far as the fee goes, that's fine.
And with regard to her her reimbursement, Kyle signed it today. She will get it tomorrow.
Okay. All right. So she was reimbursed. So who had the check then? who intercepted the check and who was in charge of our finances at that? When was this citation issued?
Well, I think it was issued, so the citation was issued October 15th, but I don't actually believe that she received it or paid it until after the Pacetti's last date of October 20th. So this was not something that they would have lost. I truthfully have no idea who it was turned into or why it didn't end up where it normally would have ended up. I haven't encountered a similar situation. Since-
Mike,
yeah.
did you deposit the check? Maybe did Denise collect the check and just hand the check? How, let me ask you this.
Mhm.
How are these things collected? So a person comes to the window at Borough Hall, they write a check. I assume that our administrative assistant or our borough administrator accepts the check. She logs it somehow, right? And then she turns it over to Andrew, and then Andrew, do you turn it over to Mike?
So what we do is we put the checks in Denise retains a copy of the check and then attaches it to a copy of the fine that we have on file. And then the actual check itself is put in a folder. It's actually a little zip up bank deposit bag thingy that I put in his mailbox. It wasn't on their end because it didn't even get to Mike. I did reach out to Mike about this specific check. Didn't even get to them until a couple days before January 11th. So it must have been placed somewhere weird. And then, yeah, I don't know if Denise found it in the office. She didn't understand. So, I mean, it's not something that she did if she did intentionally. But it must have turned up in the office sometime in early January. And then she put it in the box and gave it to Mike.
Okay. All right. So now we've got, and Mike's not going to look at every check he's got to deposit. I mean, that's ridiculous. I mean, it's not his fault.
It would have been irrelevant. She could have written in October and then given it to us in January, and it wouldn't have been for him to know.
Right. No, I get you. So, all right. So you've got some safeguards put in place to avoid this again. Mrs. Adams, I want to apologize on behalf of council for the mishap, and the refund has been cut to Mrs. Adams.
It has been cut. She'll get it tomorrow.
And I hope you'll forgive us the mishap. It won't happen again. In regards to warnings, I'm not opposed to the idea. In fact, I'll tell you what I would have liked to have done was to send out a newsletter, big Folcroft Code Enforcement newsletter. This is what will be acceptable. This is what will get you a fine. This is your first and only warning, sent to every address in the borough. So that's your warning. I think I would like to consider maybe putting something together like that in a mailer.
I would recommend doing it as some kind of magnet for the refrigerator so that people don't toss it out. Even if it's like a card stock with magnets on the back, and maybe have the trash days, the holidays on there also, and some of the major codes that we have issues with. Because if you put it on a flyer, people are going to throw it out. If it's something that they can stick on their refrigerator, they might actually keep it. And we might not keep getting hit with is Monday a trash holiday comments constantly, because I know Andrew fields those questions probably every single time. Something like that would be nice to have that be recognized, no trash pickup, and I could stick it on my fridge and not have to ask Andrew.
I like it.
I would suggest also, I mean, as hopefully we eventually end up going into normal times again, that we get enough to hand out a mail out, but then also we get some extras so that at events and things like that for the borough, we can have them available for people for information. I mean, not a lot of people will probably take it, but that means we just don't need to have a lot of extras, but we can have them available because, people will move in between when we send it and when, whenever we might see them again the next time. So we can have additionals available.
Who would like to put it together? And I mean, I'll help with it. I think it should go through 3 or 4 proofreadings before we send it to print, because once it's printed and delivered, that's it. That's going to be the gospel. You know what I mean? They're going to live by it. So we got to make sure we get that right. I think Lee, I do think it's a good idea, like a calendar with some sort of magnet feature that they can hang up. And I know that the township where I work, I don't even know if they're going to be doing them anymore because they're going to do biannual like newsletters. But there was a calendar with, you'd flip the calendar page up and it would have facts about a specific department or something, that just things that are important to being a good resident on each back page of each calendar page. So you'd flip January up and you'd see, well, you would flip November up and you would see December, but on the upper side, there would be important facts that residents could just take in.
I know,
Um,
and my mom's in Alden, and they literally got a cardstock piece of paper with magnets on the back that have all that fun, important stuff on the calendar so that they know. And it says things like grass needs to be mowed, or this fine will happen, no parking on the street on street sweeper day. Like, it says all those little things that people need a reminder of, especially like new people. If they come pick up the recycling can, if they're new to the neighborhood, they can get one of these at the same time so that they don't have to, constantly call into the borough for things that they don't want to bother people about, but need to know the answers to.
Okay, that's a great idea. Is there any way can we borrow your mother's calendar to get a feelie on it and see how we,
Yeah.
and
Yeah.
what works for us, we'll take. What doesn't work for us, we'll reinvent. But why, no sense in reinventing the wheel if that works well, and I'm sure I could talk to Dan Procopio over in Alden. He won't mind if we use a good idea for him. So I think he'll be fine with that. Okay. I think so. Mrs. Adams, that was really great constructive criticism if you're watching, and I thank you for that. We're going to get moving on some sort of informational calendar. Is there any other public participation, Andrew?
That is the only comment this evening.
Joe, I apologize. Before we move on, there was another thing that she had mentioned, which was the timing of when violations had to be paid by. And while I don't know how I would necessarily feel about 10 days under normal circumstances, I know right now with the mail moving at, you can mail something today and it not arrive for a month and a half. Even if it's just like an office policy where we're a little bit more understanding of the fact that things are not necessarily moving at a good pace, but I think the problem is that residents will see 10 days and freak out and try to get something done if they receive it a day before it's due. I think that might warrant a bit more consideration of what might be a reasonable time frame, because I don't know if I necessarily disagree. 10 days is a little bit short. Most, you get a parking ticket or you get something like that, you normally have a little bit more than 10 days to get that sorted out.
You don't usually, but I agree that during this, with what's going on, there's no shame or no hurt or no harm in us giving a little bit of a grace.
I
Alex,
think
is
30 days is good enough, because I have to agree with Kyle. I just ordered something. I ordered something December the 4th after I ordered some Christmas presents, and I just got it today. So
I
I
get
got
that.
the other outfits, the other stuff before Christmas, which was the Christmas gift. So that was good. But the second thing I just got today. So that was from back in the beginning of December. So we should be allowing more time, I think.
So here's what I would suggest. Our objective with code enforcement is it's not revenue driven. We don't want your money. I mean, the long and short of it is we don't really want your money. We just want you to comply with the regulations. Can we make some sort of stipulation where please contact the borough office within 10 days of receipt of this? We don't have to say please pay within 10 days. Can we do a please contact the borough within 10 days? So you could either in those 10 days make an agreement with the borough manager to get yourself compliant and the fine would be forgiven, or if we don't hear from you at all in 10 days, we usually are. If somebody calls and Andrew, correct me if I'm wrong, if somebody calls the borough and says, I'm in a hard way, I'm a single mother with 3 kids that are all under 12 and I don't have anybody old enough to mow my lawn, and things fell behind, and the guy who I pay $10 a week to didn't show up this week and hasn't showed up in 3 weeks because he's undependable, and I'm trying to find somebody to mow my lawn. If somebody calls and says something like that, and we have had countless calls about that, we make provisions for them. So,
Yeah, I mean, generally speaking, yes, I'd be a little more reluctant to say definitively yes if it's the 30th time, and not literally 30th, but if this is a repeat issue and it's not been resolved and a commitment was made and but the problem wasn't resolved, then I might be hesitant. But beside that, I mean, yeah, absolutely. I work with residents, and the goal, we don't want the money. The goal is to, sorry, my son keeps calling me here. The goal is to fix the issue, not to collect the revenue. It's much more valuable to see the problem resolved.
right. What's everybody think here? I mean, I get that, so maybe we adjust it so you need to contact the borough within excuse my hiccups, within 10 days.
I agree with that because, hey, some life happens and you might be busy, but I also agree, we don't want that as an excuse 20 times.
Right, and the other thing is, if we give people 30 days, so now two things could be happening. They're not addressing their fine for 30 days, and they're likely not addressing their issue. I mean, am I wrong? Hello? Does anybody have any thoughts on that?
Thinking, I don't know, I don't necessarily disagree. I think there's a certain contingent of people, whether you give them 10 days or 30 days or 2 years, they're not gonna pay, they're not gonna deal with the problem. I don't know how different that contingent will be dependent if you're 10 days versus 30 days. But I don't necessarily disagree. I agree. I'm not necessarily suggesting we immediately do away with 10 days. I just think that, I don't know, if 10 days is standard, I think 10 days is often a little short to be able to, I mean, people may be working, they may not have the opportunity to get to places, and the good people are going to freak out when they see 10 days and they've only got a day left. And that's the people I worry about. is
The only
people-
other thing you could do is 10 days from the postmark on the envelope. Just make a 10 days from the postmark because it comes in a white envelope. It doesn't, the ticket isn't just delivered. It comes in the white envelope.
I've been.
Are the
I've
tickets mailed or are they put in the door?
They were mailed previously, but to save money for our postage budget, I've actually just had Joe putting them in the door since it's already in an envelope.
And is our new code enforcer, Mr. Donnelly, is he doing the same thing?
He's just putting them in the door. Yep.
Okay.
Okay, well, that-
So, and it says on the fine.
10 days. Yeah.
Okay. So we would have to print all new tickets then.
Yeah.
Oh,
Well, and they're not going through the mail, then they're being put on someone's door.
Yeah, that is, if they're
That
not being
takes
mailed,
away
that's
the-
different, yeah.
The mail being slow. You got 10 days to pay your ticket. You can go online and do it right away.
Well, I think she's saying 10 days to accrue the money.
So
So,
I would maybe suggest then, we have the envelopes. It's not necessarily, we find out how many envelopes we have and maybe we make the adjustment like you were suggesting, 10 days to pay your ticket or contact the borough.
yes.
And add that language to the next round of printing of envelopes and find out how many we have and make a decision. I wasn't suggesting we make a decision on what to do tonight. I just wanted to have the discussion because I
Alright.
just remembered it from her.
Yeah, I
All right.
also agree with being able to contact the borough because maybe within that 10 days, that say that 10 days is a Monday, but that person doesn't get paid until
Right.
Friday. And
Right.
they'll may have a little bit of money left to get food and gas.
Right. And,
Until-
and we're happy to, like I said, let's go. I think you're right. Let's go with that. Let's go with
I see definitely contacting the borough in 10 days. Because if you get that, you should be able to call and say, hey, I got this fine. What can we do so I don't have to pay it? Can you give us 2 days to get the lawn cut, come back and check it, make sure
Right.
it's done? Or however, because I think that's fair for everybody.
Right.
I mean, that's just fair. Or, hey, look, I'm going to be away. I'm not going to be able to get this stuff done, but I don't get paid again until this date. Can I pay it on this date? And however you want to do.
So Alex, do we need a formal resolution or anything like that to change that?
I mean, you guys can come up with your, yeah, I mean, you would need a resolution and a vote for the procedural mechanics because your ordinance doesn't speak to any of those. It just allows you to set, your timing and your, administrative procedures by resolution. So that's fine. And then if you're going to change any kind of fine system or administrative costs that you want to tack on or change, then we really need to look at updating your overall borough fee resolution as well. And actually, there's a couple of other items that have come up recently that, need to be added or changed to that resolution. So that's where you would
Andrew,
change it.
Andrew, why don't you go ahead and put that? Thank you, Alex. I appreciate that. What's that background noise? Is that you, Alex?
I hope not. I don't have anything running.
It sounds like you. Maybe.
So, Andrew, go ahead and make that a priority for the next committee meeting. I I think you're right, Alex. I think maybe we need to really revisit that seriously and as just an omnibus of whatever needs to be adjudicated in those ordinances and resolutions. Maybe we just need to just get it over with, get that done, and we can put that language in formally. Can we get that on the agenda for the next committee meeting, Andrew? Make it a priority, like top notch.
Got it.
All right. I think that covers audience participation. Sorry, Lisa, to keep you waiting. On to the engineer's report.
Helps to unmute before I try to speak. Thank you, everyone. You do have a copy of my report. Couple things. We're waiting for some small revisions from Popeyes, so that should be moving forward. We had a little issue where they had too much impervious coverage on that second lot. It's been resolved. However, they needed to change some stormwater in order to get that done. So we think that they'll probably be starting. We don't have recorded plans. Alex, if you recall, there was a change. There was language in the initial saldo agreements. I don't know if you have to review those again and get those resolved with Joe D'Amico, who is the attorney for Lee Brown, but we're getting close anyway. There'll be a new escrow. There'll be an updated escrow for that particular phase of the development. Safe Store, I think everybody sees what's going on with Safe Store. We've had some issues with E&S, mud out on the street. As a matter of fact, the last complaint that we got, which was the third time it's happened, came from Sharon Hill Borough. So they were written up by the Conservation District for a violation of the Clean Water Act. We're monitoring that. As a matter of fact, yesterday when I was on Chester Pike, I made a phone call afterwards to let them know that we see mud once again, not as bad as it was, but I'm trying to keep that under control. Got a lot of trucks going in and out, and if that tire scrubber isn't kept in order, we're going to have mud out on the street. The community development block grant applications have been submitted. So typically it's April, May before we'll get a notification. I know right now that the Office of Housing Community Development is currently reviewing, because I had some questions on some of the applications, what the money was going to be used for, what portion of the money was going to be used for what. So they are moving forward with the review currently. I have not yet heard from DEP with regard to the small water and sewer program grant that we received. We have $34,000 that should be utilized by June of 2021. We've asked that the scope be reduced so that we just at least get the flow meter into the pump station, because you do not have a flow meter at this point. That request for a change is over 2 months old. I know that a lot of the offices are not working full time, so I'm not sure where we go requesting the authorization. That is in the contract documents that we signed for the grant. We must get an approval prior to any change in scope. The road program 2021, those bids, I actually held off. We're going to take them for the February meeting. What I thought is we are extremely close to getting the Community Development Block Grant 2020 project ready for review and authorization to bid. So I'd like to do both of those at the same time. The only thing that we're missing at this point is to put the quantities in the form of proposal for that particular project. So it's a lot cheaper for us to put a notice to bidders in the paper with two projects than to do them separately. So it'll save us about $600 doing it this way. And we're not going to start construction, or we're not going to start paving until sometime in April when the plant's open anyway. So it's not going to hurt us delaying that road program till the February meeting. Delaware County Planning Department, their transportation division, has called and they are looking for projects, transportation projects. I'm going to mention it again because Tom Schaefer, I spoke with him last Thursday, and they're still looking for all of the municipalities to insert various projects, just wish list projects that you would like to see that are transportation related, whether that's a bike path or streetscape or improvements to your traffic signals, which, by the way, gang, that is something that we really need to look at. There is a list of traffic signal from an inspection report that I do not believe has been completed from last year. So we need to look at that, or if PennDOT is going to run the Green Light Go project, that we would look into applying for those grant funds as well. I believe that Delcora has sent an email, the consultant has sent an email looking for the asset transfer resolution for the 537. And I'm not sure where that stands on your agenda. But I also today met via Zoom with the consultant who is doing the long-term control project, which is actually a tunnel. So they're going to be doing a mine, more or less, a tunnel from Darby all the way down to Chester City. It's going to be about 11 feet in diameter. And it's going to be bored anywhere from 80 to 100 feet deep. One of the areas that they're looking at is through Folcroft. It's going through Norwood. I believe probably a month and a half ago, I sent a mapping of that over after our first meeting with Charlie Hurst. All of the municipalities were invited to attend the Zoom meeting. And it is something that all of the flows that are currently going to the city of Philadelphia, which you are being surcharged for, will now go to the city of Chester, to the to the sanitary sewer treatment plant in Chester. There'll be improvements to that plant. They'll be necessary, but this will convey the flows from the upper eastern end of Delaware County down versus going into the southwest plant in the city of Philadelphia. It should save us some money in the long term, which is why it's called a long-term control. And they are going to be looking for permits. Obviously, they're going to have to get a contractor's license because they'll be working in Folcroft, although you're not going to see any of the construction in Folcroft because it's going to be 100 feet deep.
Are we going to feel that construction?
From what I gathered, they're doing all of the testing right now. It's in solid rock. So I don't know the answer to that fully at this point, Lee. I guess once they do all of the geotechnical work, then we'll have another meeting and something we can discuss. But right now, they've asked certain municipalities, most of the tunnel is going to go along the current force main. There will be at Darby Joint Authority pump station, at the Muckinapades pump station, at Central pump station, and I'm missing one. Can't think of the next one. They'll actually have a excavation down, and then they'll run a tunnel to the main tunnel. Run a shaft to the main tunnel. And right now they're doing all of the borings to check whether or not the rock is solid. All the preliminary results from the preliminary test have come back very negative, and they're very excited about this project. I for one would love to see it, but I can't imagine going 100 feet into the earth to see how they do it. They'll take this machine, take it in parts, and actually drop it down. They send their men down, and they'll do this boring. It's more or less mining.
And the machine just
down
comes out on
under
the
the
other
ground.
end when it's done.
And it's what?
The
I'm
machine
sorry?
just comes out on the other end when it's done. Is it just?
And the machine comes out on the other end when it's done. So it's
done.
going to be an engineering marvel if it gets done. You'll see it as the engineering project of the year at some point in time. But right now, AECom, if you hear from AECom, they are the consultants. Mott McDermott is also involved with it. That's who we met with today. They were asking questions about stormwater ordinances and zoning ordinances because they need to check all of that. Folcroft won't have any of that sort of a land development because they're not doing anything within the borough itself. So that's all I have at this point. I'll answer any questions that anyone has, and next month we'll have the road program 2021 documentation that we need to do for PennDOT.
Have you heard anything from Pico about the fee in lieu? Mike, we haven't received a check from Pico for their fee in lieu yet, have we? It's about $403,000. Mike Hill.
Yeah, I'm here. We're looking to, there's the balance in that account for the highway is 400. So when I was speaking with Andrew earlier, he thinks that was deposited earlier in the year, but we didn't get it yet this year. Earlier
No,
last year.
You're going to be seeing two things. The highway account, this Pico check should not go in the highway account. Should not
Okay.
go in your liquid fuels account. It's not liquid fuels monies. It
Okay.
needs to go in your general fund.
Okay.
And then once we have to do the 329 approvals, which is the approval to utilize the liquid fuels, we'll actually put a distribution. So say we use the 400, we use whatever's in the liquid fuels account. This much of the contract is going to be liquid fuels. This much is going to be general fund. Obviously, if we can keep it as unrestricted money, so that's why we want to keep it in the general fund. Liquid
Okay.
fuels money can only be used for certain things. So if we utilize all that $403,000 for the road program, then we're left with restricted funds in the liquid fuels. So we want to do the opposite. We want to keep our options open with any extra that we may have if we end up having extra in our general fund, right?
And do we need to do anything on our end to prompt that payment, or should we just expect it in at a certain point?
There, I believe, and Mike, I don't have record of it, but I believe that there was an invoice that was generated that went to Pico for Pico to cut the check. If we haven't got it, I'll reach out. If you want to give me a call, actually, if you would give me a call tomorrow, Mike, because I have a question about the 2020 program. We're looking for some transfer that we've been waiting for quite a while. Transfer from general fund to the liquid fuels account.
Okay.
We can't do a completion report until we have that. But if you can give me a call tomorrow, we can talk about where we need to go next if you haven't received that $403,000.
Okay, and I'll try to have our controller on that call with me too.
Okay. Great, thanks.
Okay. Thanks.
Any other questions for Lisa? All right, Lisa, when we get a chance, I'd like to talk about, after the meeting or at some point next week, about the Delaware County Planning Department stuff for the, I think it was one of the last things you mentioned about like the streetscapes and stuff like that. So,
Transportation inventory.
yeah, I think that's, you said something about
Yeah.
signal services and, or
The,
signal.
the transportation inventory is interesting because if we put projects on that mapping, if there's grants that are available or funding that's available, we've been getting phone calls from either Corey Brown from the planning department or Tom Schaefer from the planning department saying, hey, I don't know if you saw this or not, but there's a grant that's available. We looked on the map, looks like this project may qualify. So it's another set of eyes and ears. You know, we have notifications for grants all the time, which, by the way, the DCNR grant is opening. I didn't see the official notification, but the deadline for that DCNR recreation grant is April. It's the second week of April. So we might want to start thinking about that as well.
Okay.
Not to jump in, but I mean, I think that DCNR's position right now is that because we're in violation of the land and water conservation funding that we received, that we would not be eligible for DCNR funding going forward. And maybe that was related to specific projects, and it's possible that I'm mistaken, but that was my understanding of their position.
Okay.
Found, and I know Alex, I had sent some information. I actually found the maps and the one grant application that was sent to Marianne French a while back when we first got notification of the LWCF violation. So if you need any of that, let me know.
Yeah, I would like to see that, to see how we could start maybe moving forward to do our best to get compliant with that.
So I met with them, I virtually spoke with them, I guess a month or two ago now, and their position was, we have 4 properties that we received funding for. Essentially the way we would become compliant is we would have to purchase land and either in the borough, we'd have to purchase it. We couldn't, repurpose land that we already own. We have to purchase land in the borough or in an adjacent municipality. They said would probably be acceptable, but not definitely. But it has to be land that's accessible to the borough. So we couldn't purchase like a piece of swamp land that's technically in, Darby Township or something. And then,
is there anything wrong with getting the land that we currently have compliant?
Yeah, I think if it's the land that was already allocated to, but if it's another piece of property that we owned that the money wasn't utilized for, and my understanding is that we would not be able to use that to be compliant.
All right, so we need to start thinking about getting a menu of options together on how
Lisa,
to
I'm sure
become.
knows more about this than me, so.
So there's 4 properties. The one property, from what we gathered, was sold to Action Concrete
Yeah.
years ago. I can tell you that
Or suburban concrete, right?
Suburban, I'm sorry, not Action. Action's in a way different area.
It's right up, I think it's a little further up O'Gavin.
Yeah, wrong one. Chugga wouldn't be very happy with me that I got the wrong name. But Jim Costello is the owner. Jim says that he has in his safe the documentation. So what we would have to do is we would have to buy a piece of land that is comparable. The question is whether or not is it a piece of land that was comparable in 1995 or whatever year it was that these grants were done, or in today's land value. That's the first one. The second one's a little bit easier because it's behind the current municipal building. And where the salt shed was a
Tot lot,
top lot.
when I was a
Was
kid.
removed. So we would, if we can find something in a repository, we may be able to get that one resolved rather quickly, I think. The third one is in Montgomery Park. There was somebody that was dumping, that was resolved years ago when we first got the letter. The other thing that happened is that there are many of the residents that border the park who have encroached with various structures, we'll call them. So what we had recommended doing at that point was to do a property survey so we know exactly where the property line was and let the residents know along that area that they are encroaching on borough property. That unfortunately did not happen. So that also could be something that would be less painful unless somebody's put a garage on it, for example. Usually it's gardens and
We have one
different
more.
recreational areas. And then can't remember what the last one is,
So
but
the
I
pro-
do.
it's the property that the new borough hall is going to go on. It's not, it's currently compliant, but it's the only property of ours that is compliant. And once we build the new borough hall, it won't be compliant.
That's correct. Under the contract, the borough was required to get permission from DCNR to construct the building.
And
So
we didn't do that.
I can't tell you that we did that. I do not believe we did that.
So I spoke to DCNR about that as well. Apparently they sent notice sometime in 2017. And it was at least in 2017. It could have been another time earlier, but it wasn't done. No. So I mean, and again, their description to me was that they would allow the building, the new borough hall at our location, or they would approve of it again if we purchased an equivalent property or an adjacent property to the borough that was accessible to borough residents for the same.
I mean, the community center and the borough hall are both. The community center is a recreational facility.
I
So,
agree.
so we replaced
It's
a
indoor
useless-
recreation. This is for outdoor recreation and open space. So they're not looking at it that way. Andrew, did you meet with Gene Lynch?
Yeah, I believe that was who it was.
Yeah.
We have
So
another meeting that we should follow up with at some point, but yeah.
Mhm.
How much money is on the line here, Lisa? How much do they give to like, can you give me an
They-
example of like an average DCNR grant?
The grant that was given was $5,000 for each one of the sites.
Can you ask them if they just want their money back? I'll give them their money back. I mean, and so they hook us in with this. Let me ask you this. So it disqualifies us for any future grants. How much are they worth?
I've gotten grants for $60,000. I've gotten grants for $300,000. So
Big enough money that
it
might
really
be-
depends on what the scope is. The $60,000 ones are typically in small communities. You're not qualified as a small community. Small community is, I want to say, less than 6,000 people. I don't remember what the qualification is for, but you wouldn't qualify for that.
Okay, so we have a land acquisition problem for grant. Okay. I mean, I knew little bits and pieces about it, but I didn't have the full picture and focus until
Yeah.
just now. So, all right, that's another thing we're gonna have to get on. And you said, Andrew, that you spoke to them lightly about this, that even had we requested permission to build it, they would have said, you gotta buy a piece of land somewhere else equal to, okay. Well, all right then. All right. Thank you. Ms. Catania, I appreciate it. Thank you so much. Moving on to Public Finance and Administration. I'd like to entertain a motion from the body of council to approve the bill list for the month of December 2020.
So moved.
Seconded.
All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Aye. Any opposed? Motion carries. I'd like to entertain a motion from the body of council to approve the treasurer's report for the month of 2020, for the month of December 2020.
So moved.
Can I get a second? Second. Thank you, Councilman. All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Any opposed? Were there any questions on these items either? seems like there's some reluctance here. I don't know if it's because our mute buttons are engaged and everybody's a little delayed. If there's ever questions before a vote, Councilman McGuigan always, and I respect him for that, he always interjects and asks for a moment of discussion. I want to invite that. So if there's ever a moment where you feel like you need to discuss that stuff, please feel free to. I'm going to assume for the sake of this moment that it's the fact that our mute buttons are engaged and we're slowing us down.
I will, I'll interject real quick. I just want to let you know, Mike, that the treasurer's reports have been fantastic. I love the way they're being set up. I can see specifically what is being spent and what area it is coming from. I love it. It's so much simpler to me. It makes sense to me, and I just really appreciate it. So thank you.
Thank you. It's appreciated.
Very good. All right, I'd like to entertain a motion from the body of council to approve the December 1st, 2020 committee meeting minutes, December 15th, 2020 council meeting minutes, and the December 31st, 2020 budget meeting minutes.
So moved.
Second.
Second.
All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion carries. So I would like to discuss or consider or bring to the council for their consideration the financing options for the United Rentals for the backhoe that we are purchasing.
So moved.
So this is, just to be clear, this is not a motion. This is actually just two different financing options. I sent it out to council. We had some delays in getting it. So the backhoe, if you want to look at the email in your packet, the backhoe that you guys agreed to purchase at our December 15th meeting was for $51,300. After Sean Payne and I went out and took a look at the vehicle, Sean had some, requests for repairs. The turn signals were out. It needed some paint, a new hood, minor other things, a new battery. Other than that, he thought it was in fantastic condition. Actually, the mileage came in lower than actually their bid had suggested it was, not by much, but it was lower. Because of those concerns, United Rentals agreed to lower their price to $49,000 from $51,300. I spoke to United Rentals Financing. They said that they gave the two financing options, one for 24 months, one for 36 months. I sent that to Alex for his consideration. He looked it over, and I think Alex said he was comfortable with both options for us. Now, I did speak to United Rentals Financing and let them know that we intended to have a portion of this be reimbursed by liquid fuels funds. They're fine with that. Any payment we make above the standard monthly payment will be taken from our will be credited to us. So for the next certain number of payments, so if we were to make a $30,000 payment tomorrow, then we would have, say, 10, 12, 15 payments that we wouldn't have to make. Theoretically, of course, we could continue to make them, or we could opt tomorrow morning. We could accept this deal, and then the next day we could pay it all off at once in a singular check if we wanted to, and that would be fine as well. But I recommend, I think, the 36-month option, and then with us beginning at the lowest possible payment and then doing the liquid fuels funding payment. I spoke to PennDOT about that. They were comfortable with what we were purchasing, and that we can get up to 20% of our annual allocation for that vehicle, which should come out to a little bit above $30,000.
Okay. All right. So how much are we financing, and so we're going to finance the whole thing, and then you want to do a principal payment when we receive our liquid fuels funds? Or
Yeah.
you want to,
Yeah, I think we should just do that.
so then we'll still, go ahead.
Well, I'd say the 36-month plan, and then we'll make that principal payment, like you're saying, once we receive the extra money from liquid fuels. And then you could opt at any time to pay the remainder if you chose.
All right. I can dig it. Here's the other option. So we have capital outlay expenditures of how much, Kyle, for Public Works?
The total was 40,000. I believe we were purchasing this under the auspices of last year's budget, and I believe it was 40,000 for last year as well. But if you give me a second, I will confirm that for you.
because I'm looking at this Ford F-350, which you're going to talk about in your portion. Financing both of them gets us, I mean, we're still within the capital outlay budget. And then I think this would also qualify that maybe in another year for us to use liquid fuels funds in some other year to make a principal payment on this. Am I wrong?
Do you have a principal payment on the Ford F-350?
It is, if I'm understanding correctly, this is going to be for road plowing.
Yeah, but I don't know that I don't know that we'd get the same percentage because, you know, as we get for the backhoe, since I think it's a little bit more dedicated. I could be wrong, but I wouldn't count on the full 20% of the allocation for the 350.
If I may,
Yes, ma'am.
please remember that you have an $800,000 road program that you have authorized to bid.
Yes.
So I just want to make sure that
Yes. Yes. So we're
I-
aware of that. We're aware of that. And there is,
Okay.
so there'll be $403,000 from Pico. There's $400,000 currently in the account. And then what do we do in this coming fiscal year or did we already receive our allocation from PennDOT? Does anybody know the answer to that question?
I think it's $154,000, some change a year.
When was the last one paid to the borough?
I think it comes through in March, April.
April. Mhm.
Yeah.
Okay. All right. So, I mean, our highway funds will be pretty flush, right? I mean, I think we're
So, Alex and maybe Kyle, are you aware if we approved this vehicle under 2020? I mean, does that come out of 2020 or does the actual payment need to be made in 2020's budget to come from that budget?
You mean we approved the
Yeah, the backhoe, we approved it in 2020, December 15th meeting. I mean, is that a 2020 purchase, even if we're not approving the financing until now? Alex?
A question for me.
Mike? Or
Andrew, if I can I try to get some clarification on your question. Are you worried about it from a legal perspective that this isn't necessary, or is this just a bookkeeping perspective?
I guess a bookkeeping perspective, I want to know if we still have the funds remaining from 2020. I mean, I don't think we used any of the 2020 funds. I mean, we don't
No, I
have
mean,
any-
what I'm suggesting here is that we split the baby here. We have down payments for both vehicles and then we FI them. And then we can,
Alright.
I think we can make principal payments from, hold on a moment. Sorry about that. My answering machine from the 1950s, apparently. So I don't want to answer this in a public meeting because I'll be mean. Forgive me. I apologize again. So my thing is, I mean, can we split the baby and do a down payment on both vehicles, finance them both, and then make the principal payments at our leisure? Is that, like, from a financial perspective, Mike, what do you think the best thing to do here is? Because
I agree. I think you can do that.
So the question will be the financing options for who we're buying the truck from, whether their financing is structured the same way, right? So the financing for the backhoe is through who we're purchasing the backhoe from, right? And so it'll be a question as to whether and I'd have to scroll back up to the top for like the Ford dealership that we're purchasing the Ford from wants to operate in the same way.
Correct.
The kind of intention of what not intention, but just kind of the presentation as far as the truck was going to go was, this was what was identified as our largest need for the highways department for that $40,000 capital expenditure that was budgeted for 2021. This is what, Sean has suggested we use that for. And so that was what the discussion was going to be about, just kind of buying it as we had it. If we I can go over when the payments and all that stuff would be due as far as if we were to pay outright, or we can discuss financing options as well.
All right, so I guess we'll get to that. So what, Andrew, I need you to be clear about what United Rentals needs from us. What do they want? We got to get that deal sealed up and done. And then so what are they expecting from us? Are they expecting us to FI the whole thing? And then you're suggesting we FI the whole thing now and then use liquid fuels funds to make a principal payment on the vehicle later? Because I'll tell you, that's not going to change your monthly payment. When you make a large principal payment on your loan, you still pay your amortized amount until the loan is satisfied. It may be satisfied sooner, but it's not going to lower your monthly payment. So we're really not saving anything in terms of a monthly expense if we do a principal payment later.
No, we're not saving anything on that level. It's just, they would consider that payment, an early payment for however many months, whatever the total value was.
But we would still have that same monthly payment that we have to plan out for anyway. No?
Yeah, I mean, and I still think that if you make the decision to finance, you should assume that that's the payment regardless. I think that's just the safer way to be. Look, I don't know if we can finance this Ford F-350. We probably can, but I don't know that I can't promise that. All I can say for now is if you're interested in financing both, and that's certainly an option, the way to begin this would be to accept their offer for either the 24 or the 36-month plan. That's up to you. We can have the vehicle this week if we do that and make the payment.
Which vehicle, the F-150 or the backhoe?
The backhoe.
Yeah, let's get it done. What do you need from council right now to get this done?
Alex maybe can confirm, but I think just your approval for either the 36 or the 24-month plan. You guys pick which one you prefer, and then I'll, I guess, link up with
What
Mike
are
to get a payment.
For the 36-month plan, what are the payments?
I don't remember off the top of my head. I'd have to take a look.
1485.92 for
And-
34 months.
Yeah, 34 months. I wanted to make the same clarification. Thank you, Lee.
And then for 24 months?
Well, it's 22 months and it's $2,167.49. But that has a higher advance payment.
Okay. So
I have a quick question. Finance is not my department, but I have a quick question. We allotted for this, did we say 40,000 when we voted, or 36 or whatever? We budgeted for it?
So when we initially bid it out, we bid it out seeking, I believe it was 30 to 35 was the range. And then we only received one submission. It was for 51,300.
But we approved spending for,
Expense up to 30 initially.
and then what did Liquid Fuels say that we could use from Liquid Fuels funding?
20% of the allocation, which I believe comes out to just over $30,000.
So my question is why, fine, let's finance it, but why are we financing it?
Do you want to buy it? Are you okay with, Mike, do we have the buying power to buy that one cash?
Out of the general fund you do right now. I have some questions later on when it comes to the treasurer's report.
I'm not saying we should, but I'm saying if we budgeted for 36 or whatever, and we can eventually use Liquid Fuels, why are we financing something that we maybe don't have to?
So
Well, that's a good question. So my feeling is, and I talked to Sean Payne about this. So the highway needs this vehicle. They're asking for another plow vehicle and a wood chipper. If we could take those and do them one a year and pay them outright, or we could finance them and do them all three at the same time.
Right.
That's sort of the angle I'm looking from, because if the things they're asking for are hindering their ability to do their work, then why the hell wouldn't we just get it done and buy them and finance them and get them all in the same year so that we could upgrade the quality of work done by the highway department? So there's that angle I'm sort of postulating with and thinking about. And I need to know from a financial perspective, is that the wisest thing for us to do?
In my opinion, the finance is the best option because you have your real estate bills don't go out till February 1st. The fourth quarter earned income tax isn't due until January 31st. So January is probably one of the leanest months of revenue in the year. So and then with payroll it just can conceivably leave you a little bit light. So I would definitely recommend financing it.
Okay. All right. So then we'll go, I think we should go with this. Does that help? Does that answer your question, Lee?
Yeah, I just didn't, for me, I didn't understand if we had budgeted for the spending. That it made sense to me that if that was 2020's budget, that we should use that. And then this year you budgeted another 40,000. So maybe then you finance those other two things. To me, it seems silly to finance the whole thing when we clearly have the money set aside to pay for one of them.
Right.
That's
Right.
that-
But see, but here's the other thing. If we pay outright for the other one and then we finance the other two, we are then out, we've exceeded what's been budgeted for capital outlay for that department. So let's say we spend $35,000. Let's say we budget $35,000 for capital outlay and we spend $35,000 on buying an item cash. That's it for that year. We ain't buying anything else for the highway department.
Joe, what is the second item? It's Jason, by the way. I'm coming in late. Did you say it was an F-150 when I first logged on?
It looks like an F-350 4x4 SD regular cab, 8 bucks, 140. So it's an extra plow vehicle, essentially, is what it is.
I think someone said 150, and then I had an idea, but if it's a 350, never mind.
What was
My
your
idea
idea for the
was that
one?
we have that new police vehicle coming in, but I don't think that the vehicle that they're giving up, their truck, can be plow. I think we've asked this question before, and we can't put a plow on that. It's too small of a vehicle.
Now, let me ask you this. Could we trade that vehicle in to help with the cost of this one?
We own it, but
Ah,
that would be if the chief can let it go. Usually they rotate one out.
Right.
I'm pretty sure that it's a truck this year that they're going to rotate out.
All right.
Whoa. We weren't trying to rotate anything out.
All right. I'm listening.
So we're trying not to rotate anything out. We rotated a truck out last time, unbeknown to me, that we rotated it because it was some kind of deal. But we don't want to get rid of anything because now, if everybody understands what we had to do with the Taurus going down, we're down vehicles for patrol stuff, and then that becomes a problem. So we were trying to keep it if we can. I don't think it's a problem with the vehicles that we do have, but that's what we were trying to do this year. But you guys do what you need to do or whatever. But I was trying to keep the vehicles.
Well, I don't think my idea would work anyway, Bill, because the trucks that you guys have, the idea I had was to put a plow on it, but I don't think your trucks, even if you rotated out your oldest vehicle, I don't think the body can handle it. So I don't even think it would make sense to do it. But if you guys need it, it makes sense. You need it. Leave it alone.
All right. All right. So then we'll leave that where it is. I appreciate the input, Jason. It was a good brain tease there for a minute. I was getting excited. I thought maybe we were able to rotate out an old vehicle. All right. So, but Lee, does that make more sense now that I've explained that, so that we could stretch it out? Like, in other words, if we spend the $35,000 allocation for capital outlay for public works that was allocated in the budget, it's fine. We can do that. And we could pair that up with the 20,000 that we'll get from liquid fuels that we're allowed to use, or 30,000, whatever have you, for liquid fuels in order to pay it outright. But then that's it. Then this Ford F-350 is out the picture till next year, which I'm cool with. I mean, whatever the council wants to do, but I just think it might be more from a financial perspective, it would be wiser to stretch ourselves. I don't want to say stretch ourselves thin. It sounds worse than it is, but to explore and examine and utilize every financial tool at our disposal to maximize our buying power.
I mean, the other thing to consider, it's not just the wood chipper and the we back to this backhoe. I mean, we need another truck, but we also need a lawnmower. There's other equipment, just day-to-day items and stuff that we are short on, that we desperately need. And it is probably good to spread that out, even though it's annoying, over a period of years, to try and be able to get as much equipment up front as possible so that we can get this stuff and get active now. So we're up to speed a little bit sooner, even though we'll still be paying some of this stuff off further down the road.
Right, that's fine. I understand.
Jason, your thoughts?
Yeah, I mean, like I said, I came in on the end, but I mean, it sounds like they need this equipment. I know the equipment they had is old, so if financing gives you the ability to get more, as long as we're not getting beat up on the what is the finance charge? And I know you guys talked about it. I apologize, but
So Mike, so I think you have the financial. Do we all have a copy of the deets on this,
You have it in there.
Yeah, I have to pull it up in the email. Let me see.
we have two options. We could do the 36 month or the 24 month. Is that right? Or the 26 month, whatever it is. Can you, Andrew, I'm asking.
I'm looking at it now. Hold on. It's 34 or 22, but hold on a second.
I have to unmute to give the information as I was using my calculator on my computer. So for the 34-month payment option, over the term of that 34 months, if we were to take the whole period to pay it, it would cost $53,493. That is the total cost over the 34-month period.
and the
And the
purchase price is 39,000, right?
No,
I mean,
no, we're
40
talking about
49.
49. So you're talking $4,000 in finance, and I don't think. Listen, I think you can move on. You finance it, you pay the 4,000 over several years. That's fair enough.
I think so too. What's the 22 month?
I am doing the math right now.
Listen, I'm satisfied.
Every group.
I'm good. Breaking it down that way made sense to me. That's
I think we do the 34.
well within reason. Yeah,
Let's do the 34 because it frees up, almost
I was gonna
$1,000.
say same thing, 34. We'll get, it'll, we can pay it off sooner, we pay it off sooner,
Right.
go from there. But take the
And
longer loan.
The other one was 52. It's $1,000 less. It's
Do the 34 month.
Yeah.
Let's do
And
the 34.
Also, Councilwoman Isaac, that background is fire.
Nice. All right. So, so I'd like to entertain, do I need a motion? I need a motion for this. I'd like to entertain a motion from the body of council to opt into the 34-month option. Least, why does it say lease term here?
It is most likely a 36-month lease term, but with only 34 payments. So the first 2 payments are advanced payments.
But I don't want to lease. I want to purchase. I ain't leasing it then.
It's a $1 purchase at the end of the lease. So it's a $1 purchase option at the end of the lease. So that was a question I had until I read it a little bit deeper. I believe it is a lease to purchase at the end with a $1 buyout. Andrew, correct me if I'm wrong.
That was my understanding of it as well, but
Okay. All right. So then I would like to make a motion to opt into the 34-month monthly payment option for the 36-month lease with the $1 option, or the $1 purchase option at the end of the lease agreement.
So moved.
Second.
All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion carries. All right, so that's approved. Let's get this thing home by the end of the week. Is that possible, Andrew?
certainly is. They're going to be bringing it back for us at no cost.
Thank you. Nice. On to the Public Works Committee. I'm going to turn it over to Kyle Willis, Councilman Willis.
All right, so we've got 2 items here. I actually would like Andrew to kind of go over the view of the code officer position, because to be honest with you, until I had to have him remind me of exactly what this was, I was misreading it. So Andrew, why don't you let everyone know what this position would entail?
So I called this position code officer. That's a bit misleading, but there's not really a better title that I could think of offhand. I'm open to all of your suggestions. This is, as we discussed back in October, this is the idea of bringing permit inspections and other use and occupancy inspections in particular, and permits, some permits, but certainly not all, in-house. I worked with Charles Catania and Mike Diaz Mike Charles to delineate what services could be provided by an in-house employee, which one would be realistic and appropriate. So, for example, some permitting work, but not all, some concrete work, not major structural work, not electrical work, I believe. But again, and this is under the UCC, it's sort of outlined in that in the job description that I provided for you. But these are services that could be provided by an in-house employee.
We're losing you, Andrew.
Do you hear me?
A little better now.
So these are services that could be provided by an in-house employee. It's important to keep in mind that the budget right now has 50% of the revenue that for those projects going to as an expense. So that employee, I think after benefits, shouldn't be paid more than 50% of the revenue for all of those items. I think for use and occupancies, that's $143,000 a year. But we could also potentially, but not definitely, we could choose to sort of change the scope of that. That person could theoretically do fire inspections. They could do health inspections, depending on it. My understanding is that there is a market of employees for this, or potential employees for this. And mostly people who already work for municipalities, probably. It's something that for us to look at, and we could also look at adjusting it. So I wanted to provide you a tentative job description. We could also get our current code enforcer certified to do some of the use and occupancy inspections as well, if we wanted to. He's actually offered to do this. So it's really up to you. This posting is ready to go if you like it, but I just wanted it as an example. It doesn't have to get posted right away. Or we could post it and then decide we don't have a candidate, and we could repost it with different, a different outline.
Did everybody see the, I think I've seen it, I think.
Yeah.
I've seen it in detail. I mean, we're looking for a very special kind of candidate with very special kind of credentials. These credentials are very much in demand, and believe it or not, a lot harder to find than I would have ever thought. So, I mean, I think we run it and see what we get back. I mean, what does it, did anybody look at this yet?
Yeah. I think at the end of the day, we can make a posting. We don't have to, we don't have to hire anybody from a posting. We can see what is available to us. And if we can do this in a way that will end up saving us money and giving us the ability to provide a more tailored service, then, that might be the possibility of a win-win, but we're not, boxing ourselves into a corner here. We're just opening a door and seeing what's on the other side.
I think that's what we do. Does anybody object to that? Kyle, this is your portion of the meeting. Forgive me.
No, you're fine. That's not a big deal. So then at that point, I'd like to make a motion to advertise the code officer position. That is a weird name.
Second.
All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Any opposed? Motion carries.
All right, so for the second section, which we've already kind of started to discuss, I wanted to give some background as to why the highway department is looking to purchase a new truck. So one of the trucks in their kind of set of trucks is from 2004. So it's a bit on the older side, and it's a work vehicle, so they get beat up pretty badly. They're starting to have issues with rust and other maintenance issues, and we're going to probably start to get ourselves into the point where we're spending more on maintenance than we are on purchasing a new vehicle here pretty soon. So this was identified as the top line kind of most necessary thing for that capital outlay. Andrew had mentioned a couple of other items that might fall under kind of more the materials and supplies budget for the highways department, but this was kind of their top line item. Hopefully you all were able to take a look at the kind of the listing for what it is we were looking to get at. The pricing comes in at $38,222 after delivery charges, I believe, and the discount through CoStars. So this is a CoStars one, so there's no bidding necessary because it's already done through that program. So I don't know if anyone has any questions as to kind of the need for this or any other reasons, but I think,
So I'm looking at the warranty options, the standard warranty, basic powertrain. So is this all part of, all these warranties are included in the purchase?
which page are you on?
Page 2.
Page 2, I was at the bottom. Yes, I believe this is, yeah, this is the standard warranty, which has the basic powertrain corrosion. Yes, this is the warranty of the vehicle.
Will I be getting any calls from erroneous numbers about the extended vehicle warranty on my?
I don't think they care if you own a vehicle or not. They'll call you anyway.
All right. I mean, I like it. Is this so? So the numbers that they provided us is this an outright cash payment? The 38.
That is the outright cost of the vehicle, including, just checking to make sure, pre-tax adjustments. The only thing it may not include is taxes. This is the actual cost of the vehicle. I'm just checking to make sure.
And this is what it would be if we would pay it out of pocket.
Yes, and so a couple other details
I mean cash
Yeah.
purchase.
a couple other details on what Sean's that he wanted me to make sure I got across. It could take anywhere between 4 to 20 weeks for us to actually get the vehicle. You don't pay up front, you have 30 days after delivery to pay. So, we could be looking at, March, April before we're even getting the vehicle and having to pay for it.
Is there a FI option?
Andrew, did we discuss a FI option?
While Andrew's looking that up, Kyle, my
Yes.
suggestion would be if you're looking at a 4 to 20 week delivery and going off what the finance director just said, wouldn't it make more sense to buy this vehicle in September? Because we're almost through the plow season. You'll be more flush with cash. And if you decided to go with a cash option, you won't be worried about waiting on that fourth quarter earned income and first quarter property tax. You'll have it.
I need to, what we can possibly do here is go through, I don't remember the other options. I know plowing was one of the things that they were going to be doing with this vehicle, but obviously, there are other options and other things that they would like to be doing. I can get a more detailed description of what they're looking for here and what they're planning on doing with it. I know that it is going to be possible to use it as a plow, but I know that they are replacing a vehicle that is old and that they are using. Now there's only 2 of them right now, so they're not using all the vehicles all the time, but we are still in the process of looking to fill out the highway department back up to full staffing, which may put us in a position where we're going to need these vehicles again anyway.
Right.
So the question so Andrew, I don't know if you have an answer to the question.
That's the negative. I have no idea.
Okay, so it would be probably best for us to finish getting this out. Andrew, can you work with Sean to get us our options on this?
Yeah.
And find out what the stock options are anyway, whether we're going to be able to get it in right away or if it is going to take that 4 to 20 weeks. And get us a bit more details, and we can move on this possibly if it's necessary.
If it helps, at the bottom in red, it says on order for in-stock inventory and currently available. Contact ASAP to secure a vehicle.
So I think the only question is the financing versus outright purchase, which is information we do not have in front of us.
Well, look, let's go back, get the financing option, and then
Yep.
We have
Yeah.
a voting meeting in early February that you could choose to vote immediately if there was to be a deadline and a number of vehicles running out or something like that.
Yeah, I mean, I don't, if it's going to take 4 to 20 months or 4 to 20 weeks to get the vehicle anyway, then they're manufacturing these vehicles. They're not going to run out of vehicles. Any good salesman doesn't run out of product. I mean, I don't know. That's just, I think I want it. I mean, I would like to do it, but I think Jason makes a fair point too. And if we're almost through plowing season now, if it's something that we can table until we get more information. And I would like to know the financing option as well. Lee, I see you talking. Are you trying to talk to us?
I'm yelling at the 9-year-old who's sitting with the refrigerator door open. Sorry.
Fair enough. All right. So I mean,
Let's table it for now. Let's get the rest of our information. And we will make sure that this is needed now versus needed later, and we will move from there. And with
All right.
that is the end of my section.
Okay. On to public safety, Councilmember Skowski is absent. Jason, you want to take over Public Safety Committee for the meeting?
Yeah, I will, but I'm actually going to do a little swerve because today is the National Day of Remembrance for all of the folks that we've lost throughout the country to COVID. And the county put on a nice program this evening and had a memorial service for those. I mean, that's something that our police are dealing with every day, all of our first responders. I know another big thing in the community that's going on is the vaccinations, and everybody wondering what line they fall in, whether they're in 1A, 1B. You can go to the county website and they break it down for you, as well as, and I think Councilwoman Daly posted this today, they're having a town hall meeting to go over that tomorrow night. So the residents may want to check that out. And again, I think she already posted it, so we're good there. And then other than that, I'll defer to the chief's report later.
We still have to, I think we have to motion to approve. Do you have the agenda in front of you?
I do.
So we
So
have to-
I'd like to make a motion to approve the police chief's report for the month of December 2020.
Seconded.
All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Any opposed? Motion carries.
Motion to approve the fire chief's report for the month of December 2020.
Seconded.
All those in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion carries.
Motion to approve the fire marshal's report for the month of December 2020.
Seconded.
All those in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion carries. On to Public Health and Literacy, Councilwoman Isaac.
Sorry about that. Couldn't hit my unmute button quick enough. No new business at this time, except for, as we all know, the library is closed until next Wednesday.
Yeah, I was looking for that that report. Okay, I think I have something in my packet here too about that. So thank you for that update. Municipal Planning and Zoning, Councilman Waters.
No new news to discuss.
Public Parks and Recreation. Thank you, Councilman Waters. Public Parks and Recreation, Councilwoman Daly.
Yep, I need to discuss contributing $125 to the Darby Creek Valley Association for their creek cleanup and to help us meet our NPDES. So we all received a flyer explaining what it is. They want $125. It's kind of a no-brainer. That's all I have.
Can you motion to?
Yeah, I can make a motion to contribute $125 to the Darby Creek Valley Association for their creek cleanup and to help us meet our NPDES.
Second.
Second.
All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Any opposed? That motion carries. Thank you, Councilwoman Daly. Is there anything else?
Nothing else.
No. Municipal Legislation, Councilman Waters.
Sozo, I have no new business to discuss until later.
Okay, very good. New Construction Committee, Councilman Willis.
All right, so we have closed on our loan. So we can all kind of take a deep breath on that one. That process has gotten through. We are now working with contractor, and Andrew, you can update me if you've heard anything as of today. I know when you and I last spoke, you hadn't heard anything back. We were waiting on the construction schedule and to work with them to get the contract signed and move forward. That's the next step. And once we have our schedule, we will know when we're ready to break ground and get started. We're just kind of, last week was when we got the loan closed. So we're just kind of, now it's time to get the wheels spinning and take off. Hopefully we have to see what the contractor wants to do as far as weather and temperature. We may have to wait a little bit before we get started, since it's now, deep into January when it gets a bit cold. So, but the contractor will give us more information on specifically what they want to do and their suggestions. So I will have more information in the beginning of February, hopefully, and I will let you guys know as those things change, and we can hopefully be able to make a specific announcement as to our schedule here soon. Otherwise, that is all I have for this meeting, for this.
All right, so we're almost there. That's good. On to the parking permit and paving committee, Councilman Willis.
So this one is a bit on me. I've been kind of hit a bit hard this month, going back to having to actually go into my school to work nowadays. Has put a little bit of a hamper on my schedule. So I failed to schedule a committee meeting. So I do not have anything different to report than I did at the last meeting. I will strive to correct that issue and get us a meeting for February so that I will actually have something to report and get some actual progress going on this one.
Okay.
But that is all I have.
I have a couple people who would be interested in serving on that committee. So do we have to approve them by council, or we just invite them to the meeting?
I believe actually it might, Alex, you can correct me if I'm wrong. You placed them on the committee as president of council by your will
Okay,
alone.
okay,
He's
very
right.
good.
Yeah.
All right,
No
so
separate-
there are a couple appointments that I'm going to be making, I guess, in the next couple days. So that works. All right, on to the police chief's report. Chief.
Thank you, Mr. President and Council. Just want to go over a couple things with you. The vehicle, the brand new vehicle that we purchased, is lettered and is out back. We do have another vehicle out there that is not ours. It's actually owned by the county. It's a 350 Ford 350, but I guess we can't put a plow on that and use that for us. But it is used for emergency responses that we will be using that for to go to SWAT calls and such. From there as well, we have the paving is going to be going back, just to let you guys know. Paving will be not paving, but I guess the restoration paving is starting tomorrow and will be the rest of this week and possibly next week and maybe further. I'm not sure about that. Just to let you know a little bit about that stuff. And that's about it.
All right.
Chief and Andrew, if you guys can get me updates as we go forward, we can post some stuff to the website as banners and get some stuff posted for like announcements to be on the website and go out to like social media and things like that. So we're hitting all of our bases. I know, Chief, you have the Crime Watch thing that you post things and that kind of gets out there as well. But if we can hit all of our avenues, I think that would be good.
Yeah. Do we have a construction
no problem.
schedule, or a construction plan schedule, like where they'll be working and when? It might be good to, now that we've learned from a really tough learning curve with the Pico project, that it
Absolutely.
behooves us.
I do know that we are going to be on Taylor Drive in school tomorrow. I think doing the 1100 block of Taylor Drive, I believe. I will get tomorrow from the guy that's running it what the schedule is going to be like for the rest of the week and next week, so we can post that. I will also post it on Crime Watch, but I will get Andrew a list of where they're going or what they plan to do, weather permitting, in the next couple weeks.
Yeah, Andrew, we got to get that out on all forums, all social media forums, so people know.
Are there any specific lane closures for tomorrow?
Sounds good.
Right now, no, just Taylor Drive that I know of. I will be down there early in the morning to meet with the guy. We just got this phone call today at around 2:00 in the afternoon. So it was a late phone call that came in, and that we're dealing with it as such. So
Okay.
I will let you know tomorrow morning. I will let Andrew know tomorrow morning, and he can filter it out to whoever he needs to filter it out. If that's okay with you.
Yep. Thank you very much. I appreciate it.
No problem.
All right, moving on to the, God bless you. We have a sneezer in the background here. Moving on to the solicitor's report. Alex,
I have no separate report.
thank you, sir. Finance director's report.
Yes, just have a couple items on mine that I want to go over. You can see on the page 1, the Muck and Patey's, the amount due for them of 109,077.75, and then the Darby Creek a fourth quarter invoice of 140,427. The M&T has 8,200 approximately, and Republic has $425. So I don't know if we have to reach out to those authorities to let them know that I don't have much background on who they are. I mean, because I had to, it's all relatively new to us. So they're unaffiliated with Delcora, or are they separate entities?
Actually, Jason, I think you serve on both of those creek authorities. Am I correct?
That is correct.
Could you explain to the finance director what those bills are for and what the interplay is with Delcora or Aqua in any way?
So they are separate from Delcora. They're independently run, and that's what we pay to send our sewage to get cleaned. That was one of the items we discussed during the budget, that they're looking at a 10% increase for next year. This goes up every year. We're in two different authorities, and like you said, we're up over we're getting close to $1 million in total payments to these two authorities. So it's something to definitely keep an eye on, but they are separate from Delcora.
Okay, and we won't expect any revenue in those accounts until probably March, correct?
Usually for us, what happens is, and if you go through and look at the way the payments were made, there was a time where we were about 4 quarters behind.
Okay.
We had increases to that over the last, I want to say 3 to 4 consecutive years to try to keep up with their increases. But typically what happens is you wait for that big money to come in on that first payment. You'll also get the sewer money in as well. And that's usually when you make the fourth quarter payment and the first quarter payment.
Okay.
It's typically how it's been done in the past. We should be at a point now where we are caught up from when we were behind 4 quarters. But if typically what happens there is an interest payment. If you do go late, you should know that. And, but as long as you're in communication with them and you let them know what you're doing, I mean, I think, for instance, Darby right now is behind like 1.2 million. Sharon Hill's behind about 700,000. So Folcroft, is in the good right now. And I'll certainly update on them. If you give me any information on when you think you can get the payment, I can update both authorities.
I appreciate that. Thank you. And
All right.
that's all I had for my report, other than what was submitted already.
All right. Thank you, Mike. Appreciate that. Moving to the borough manager's report.
So I say you guys had a report last week and just an update. Most of the material in there, not much has changed. The only thing that Councilman Wiggin already addressed is the ability to get testing. I wanted to let you guys know, and I've already signed up. Our staff responded to the survey that the Chester County Health Department has out to sign up for the COVID vaccine. We haven't received any definitive timeline yet. I spoke to Councilwoman Schaefer about this 2 days ago. She said that the timeline that we're probably, quote, a few weeks out from Section 1B, municipal employees fall into that category. So I've already signed up our police, highway, library, firefighters, office staff, and actually I believe that you would fall into this category as well, but we'll see.
You as in council members.
Council members.
Okay. All right. Is that
There's
all you
also
got?
some dispute, by the way, that borough contractors, so Lisa, Mike, that you guys may actually fall into that as well, since you provide municipal services. Probably the Montgomery County, I think, is going to consider that. I don't know about Delaware County. That's what I'm hearing anyway.
Montgomery County is going to consider what?
Firms that provide services to municipalities that are essential, like engineering or finance, or I think, Alex, I think you also discussed this with me at one point.
Yeah. So all your professionals that are not technically employees, but are on these wonderful meetings along with you would fall into that category. That's the way Montgomery County is treating it. Nothing from the joint Chester, Delaware County on that, as Andrew said. I think they all fall right now into category 1C. And then 2 being the general population. But my understanding is that these things keep changing on a daily basis. I think the 19th, it was just updated again from the state guidelines. So That's about all I know for now, but it'll change tomorrow, I'm assuming.
Yes, I would only add to that, with all due respect to the folks that we have working with us. Let's get the people that are elderly and with pre-existing conditions in before the people who attend Zoom meetings.
I don't disagree.
Yeah, and
I
they
don't
just
disagree.
updated that too, Jason. So those persons all are now moved up to 1A. So in theory, they should be contacted for their vaccines very, very shortly.
Which
Yeah,
is
they'll
good.
they'll be before us and just in I think in order anyway. Alex,
Council-
am I to construe your comment that these wonderful meetings, is that sarcasm I'm picking up from you?
No, I'm being honest. I think that, you know, the
No,
good-
no, I'm talking to Alex.
That was
I have
100%
to agree.
sincerity.
I have to agree with Jason on that. I think those that are the elderly and preconditions need to get them.
They're in sequential order before us anyway. They'll
Oh,
be,
yes,
so they're already,
which is
they're already
good.
prioritized.
I'm still waiting. I'm supposed to be getting mine. I thought by now I have my first.
I would think
But our
you're in
company,
healthcare.
yeah, but they haven't contacted us yet or dropped off. We're waiting on a date. So Andrew, if you find out we are, please give me the date. So, because if your date's before our date, I want to get mine as soon
I
as
will,
possible.
I will, and I will say,
Okay.
like, look, you know, we could, the people in this meeting, I'm happy to abstain from getting one if it means our staff get it first, but our officer, Chief, if you're gonna jump in, our officers are out there in the street every day.
They need to
We
go
need to
first.
prioritize them. Our
Definitely.
highway department is out there. If our highway department went down, that would be disastrous. So they need to get one. We need to provide those services to people. I think it's critical that we provide the library services. We're agnostic on the virtual stuff.
All right, Andrew, yeah, let the chief, I think the chief wants a word. I'm sorry, chief, go ahead.
Yeah, no problem. I just wanted to bring up that I actually forgot it because I didn't write it down, but that when you brought it up, we are getting shots tomorrow, 11 o'clock and 2 o'clock down at Fitzgerald Mercy. That will be the first dose, and then the second dose will be in February sometime. However, not all officers want to get it. So it's not mandatory, but it is being offered by Fitzgerald Mercy Hospital to us.
Okay, so I actually wanted to discuss, I'm glad that came up. For officers that are rejecting this vaccination, I mean, in my, like, so we've made provisions so that if an officer were to come down with COVID, that they don't take any of their vacation time, they don't take any of their sick time. You know, we eat that, and they still have their sick time and their vacation time, and we don't charge them for it. But if the vaccine is made available to you and you forego it, I got to tell you, chief, I got a problem with that at this point. That's your choice, but the borough is not interested in affording anybody any time off without using their own personal time or sick time if they refuse the vaccination. In my view, I think that's fair.
Joe, I just want to interject one thing because I deal with it personally. I am not taking the vaccine right now because I have too many antibodies. So it's not a choice for some. You know, without getting into anyone's personal medical, some may not be able to get the vaccine because they have antibodies. Just so you know, there is that. Just remember that caveat when we're talking about this.
Yeah, people who are getting the vaccination who have too recently had COVID are having adverse reactions. So that would be the issue, that people may have to wait even though they're eligible because of that.
I would certainly take that into full consideration. And I mean, but for officers who haven't contracted it or who are eligible and refuse, like, I mean, come on.
Joe, I do agree in certain aspects with that as well. However, I will talk tomorrow with our union and let them know what's going on so they can make sense. And I will talk to the officers about that as well. But I know there is definitely one officer that I do know that got a flu shot last week and he is not allowed to get a COVID shot because it's too close to the flu. So we'll have to make arrangements, but he wants to get it as well. So, but we'll work on that, and I will be in touch with you and Andrew if you would like about that.
Fair enough, absolutely. And I want to allow for every possible exception. You know, if you got religious exceptions, if you got health exceptions that you can't take it right now, like, cool with that. But like, I mean,
You're looking for the guys that are the tin hat guys is what you're looking for, right?
I mean, I'm not looking for them, but I mean, I'm calling them out. I'm saying, like, and here's the deal, like, as a council, we could decide that, I mean, we're already still agreeing to eat your 2-week quarantine if you get it. We're not legally obliged to do that anymore with the disappearance of the CARES Act. In fact, we're not going to be reimbursed for that. So if anybody gets it after, I think January something, I don't know whenever the CARES Act ended. So any officer who comes down with COVID, who hasn't had the opportunity to be vaccinated and wanted it or whatever, if they need 2 weeks off, the borough eats that, pays them their 2 weeks. We're not going to be reimbursed for it because I think it's the right thing to do. But moving forward with no CARES, there is no CARES Act in place anymore. There is no obligation for employers to offer any sort of COVID time. So that said, I will continue. I mean, I hope council would agree. I think we should continue to offer that to our employees because we don't want to create a situation where we're forcing people to feel like they have to come to work if they're sick.
Can we get Alex to write an opinion on what our options are for that before February?
But if you forego the vaccine and you get COVID, I mean.
So I actually, Joe directed me to get an opinion from our labor council on this issue several weeks ago. I think it's probably a topic for executive session, at least in part. But the gist of it is that we are allowed, that the EEOC's position is that we are allowed to require our employees to get the vaccine, the COVID-19 vaccine, unless that they can provide a medical or a religious exemption. Beyond that, they can be required to do it. That being said, it's really hard to prove a lot of that stuff. And they're going to keep as much of this as they can in executive session at a future date. But their position is that we should make it encourage it instead of just outright making it mandatory. Although we have.
But so the things we don't have to do, we're just not going to do. Like, we don't have to give you the 2 weeks without using your own time anymore. That's your COVID illness. You have to take that out. You have to deduct that out of your sick time if you forego.
But you run the risk of somebody getting a positive who is asymptomatic, who then comes to work because they can't afford to lose that 2 weeks, and then they infect everybody. Because even though you have the vaccine, you still have a possibility of catching the virus. So that's the only thing that's really bad about what you're saying. Like, I get it. We want you to get the vaccination, but if you don't, and we don't pay you, and you come to work asymptomatic and you infect others.
But the others should be vaccinated, right?
Vaccine
so the others,
it's not 100%. The vaccine is not 100%. And also, until you've had your second, you're not even close to 100%.
Correct.
So by saying we won't pay you anymore because you're not going to get the vaccine, you've now caused this, hey, then I'm coming to work, even though I'm asymptomatic.
Well, so how would you know that you have COVID if you're asymptomatic?
My husband has no sense of smell or taste. I better go get tested, even though I have no issues. I go get tested, it's positive, but I have no symptoms. I'm still have to quarantine for 14 days with no symptoms.
So,
but I can infect everybody.
When you start the beginning of your every shift at our police department, you're asked, do you have any symptoms?
No, you have no symptoms. You have no symptoms, but you have COVID-19. You can literally walk around the world symptom-free and be shedding the virus everywhere.
So what do you propose we do to solve this matter?
I don't know.
I think we're just going to encourage I think we're going to encourage our employees to get the vaccine until we figure this thing out. So I'm going to encourage them that they should get it. But however, there could be consequences later on that you will not, if you do contract it, that you may not get your free time. You may have to use your own sick time. I'll tell them that.
And I know, Chief, I know you check them at the beginning of every shift. They're asked, not only is their temperature checked, but you're asked, do you have any symptoms? Not having taste or smell. If the question has been posed to you and you lie, I mean,
I'm telling you, a woman came into my work today. Her husband is tested positive. He has no sense of smell or taste. She also tested positive, but she came into my work today because there is nothing wrong with her. She has no symptoms. She tested positive and yet still felt the need to walk into my work today to get a shake. So I'm telling you that these people are out there walking around symptom-free
and stupid,
shedding virus everywhere, and they don't care. And I'm not saying that our police would do that, but I'm saying that you would put that pressure of, do I go to work?
It
Or
would,
not.
I mean, they have sick time. They got to use their sick time. You know, and I'm saying not now, because right now they're still within what I believe should be the grace period. The vaccine is not afforded to them. It's not even an option on the table for them right now. They haven't had their second or last shot yet. Even the ones that they did get a shot, they don't have both. They don't have the booster yet. So after that booster period is concluded, and people who just decided they didn't want to do it, like, I think, Chief, I appreciate you talking to them about that. I think we need to talk to them about that. So I'm good with that. I think the chief will handle it.
I think it's perfectly fine too to have some sort of policy in place that says, look, you know, you got your vaccine, you did everything right, you didn't go anywhere, you stayed home, you got COVID-19, we're going to pay for your 14 days. Another example is you hopped on a plane, you went to Florida, you had vacation for a week in an area that wasn't practicing social distancing. Yeah, the taxpayer shouldn't be on the hook to pay your 14 days. I get it. And I don't disagree with what you're saying.
Thank you, Jason. I appreciate that. I get it. All right. So is there anything under old business? There is an item under new business, a resolution that I worked on with the borough manager and our solicitor today. Andrew, are you free to read the resolution?
I am. Or would you prefer to?
You go ahead and read it. I'm
right.
tired.
Okay. So a resolution of Folcroft Borough Council, Delaware County, Pennsylvania, regarding impeachment of the President of the United States. Whereas President Donald J. Trump has actively incited an armed insurrection seeking to subvert the Constitution and void the results of the free and fair election of the President in 2020 in violation of his oath to uphold and defend the Constitution of the United States. Whereas Section 3 of the 14th Amendment to the Constitution of the United States reads, and I quote, "No person shall be a senator or representative in Congress or elector of president and vice president or hold any office, civil or military, under the United States or under any state who, having previously taken an oath as a member of Congress or as an officer of the United States or as a member of any state legislature or as an executive or judicial officer of any state to support the Constitution of the United States, shall have engaged in insurrection or rebellion against the same or given aid or comfort to the enemies thereof. But Congress may, by a vote of 2/3 of each House, remove such a disability. Whereas the following members of the United States Senate and House of Representatives did attempt to overturn the results of the free and fair election of the President in 2020 in violation of their own oath to uphold and defend the Constitution of the United States. That list is included in the resolution. Now, therefore, it be resolved that any United States Senator who votes to not to convict President Donald J. Trump for inciting an armed insurrection and seeking to subvert the Constitution and void the results of the free and fair election of the President in 2020 is in violation of his or her oath to uphold and defend the Constitution of the United States. Be it further resolved that the Borough Council of Folcroft Borough strongly urges our federal representatives to seek the removal from office of any United States Senator in violation of his or her oath under Section 3 of the 14th Amendment to the Constitution, and duly presented and adopted. Well, the remainder of it.
I'll make that motion.
I'll second that.
Is there any discussion on the matter?
Yeah, I mean, I guess this will make everybody on council feel good, but I don't really get it, what the purpose of this is.
So this will be sent in citation form to both the United States Senators of Pennsylvania and to our Congresswoman.
That if you don't vote the way that you see events unfolded,
Wrong.
that I think they too should be removed from office. I just want to make sure I understood what that was saying.
And that's incorrect. That's incorrect. So the first part of the citation states that it is their constitutional obligation, whether they like the results or not, to accept the results of the certified election of their state. That is a constitutional obligation. The Congress prior to ours didn't like the result in 2016. And maybe they fought like hell after they certified the election, but they had the decency to do their constitutional obligation and they certified the election whether they liked it or not. That's one issue. The other issue is a crime that was perpetrated in full view of the American public on national television, which, having left very little to the imagination, the crime was committed in front of our face. I was home on quarantine and I watched it live. There is no denying what happened on January 6th. For a senator of the United States who was sworn to protect and serve, who was sworn to protect the Constitution and to defend the United States from enemies foreign and domestic, to have viewed those moments in real time and in their Senate chamber and have participated in the being shuffled around the Capitol for the purpose of saving their life before their president incited an insurrection. To deny that fact is a direct violation and a direct and willing abdication of one's duty to protect the Constitution and the United States from their enemies, foreign and domestic. You are in breach of your entire oath if you have viewed those events as a United States senator and can't agree that a crime was committed. You're either stupid or you're complicit. And if you're complicit, you got to go. And if you're stupid, you got to go. That's my feeling on the matter. The question's been called. All those in favor?
Aye.
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 Are there any
Aye.
opposed?
Opposed.
5-1, the motion carries. Andrew,
Actually,
send that off
Council-
to the printer to have it sent in citation form to Congresswoman
Just,
Mary
you know,
Gay Scanlon and to,
Councilwoman Daly left the meeting a moment before the vote was called, so technically speaking, it's 4-1.
okay, that's fine. So we've got a
All right.
4-1 vote. So if we could send that citation over to Congresswoman Scanlon, as well as Senators Toomey and Casey.
Got it.
How soon can we get those out?
If we're getting it printed professionally, probably, I mean, it's gonna take a couple days at least.
They'll arrive after Joe Biden's inauguration, I'm sure.
That's irrelevant. There has to be consequences, Jason. There has to be consequences. If you let this go, and this has nothing to do with Democrat or Republican, I would turn my back on my best friend if he did a thing like this. I wouldn't want to know you. Nick Waters, Councilwoman Isaac, Councilwoman Daly, Andrew Heyman, everybody on this council. If you did a thing like that, I don't want to know you. Don't call me. I'd vote to convict you. So I want to make that very clear. Has nothing to do with party. That said, the motion carries. Do we have any other business to conduct? I'd like to entertain a motion to adjourn.
Second.
Can
All
the president, vice president stick around for just a second after the meeting? I just have a question for you.
Yes. Motion's on the table. All those in favor to adjourn?
Aye.
All right. Motion carries, or actually any opposed? Motion carries. This meeting is adjourned.
All right. Good night, everybody.
Good night, everyone. Thank you.
Welcome.
Night.